artists. So I just want to show you a sneak peek at what we're going to do today. Today we are going to be creating a collage of our house. You can make it simple or you can make it a little bit more complicated and detailed. But we're going to be creating positive and negative space collages, and then we're going to use those to make prints with our crayons of our collages. So do you see how I have my collage, and then I have a texture rubbing, and then I have another texture rubbing, and I was able to change the background. So today we're going to create our house here, and then down the line we're going to make prints of them. And you'll be able to make a bunch of different prints of your house just from this one piece of artwork. Okay friends, so today I have a half sheet of white paper and I have my black paper. I'm going to be drawing on my black paper, and here you will see me start to draw my house. Now the first house I create is a little bit more complicated, so I have another more simple example to show you in just a moment, but I am starting to think about all of the details in my own house. You could choose any place. It doesn't have to be your actual house. It could be a school building. It could be a different building. Whatever place is special to you, that's what you're going to draw today. But here I am drawing each of my shapes. Each detail in my house is going to be a shape, because remember, we are cutting this out. So I am thinking of my house in very, very basic shapes. The windows are rectangles. The doors are rectangles. My roof is a combination of triangles and rectangles. And I have my steps here as rectangles as well. So that is just going to give me a nice place to evenly and neatly cut out my shapes. So here I'm going to show you an example of me creating a little bit more of a simple shaped house. It's an apartment building. So I have my big shape here, and I'm starting to go ahead and add in my windows. And I'm thinking of two things right now. I'm thinking of the general shape of my building, and I'm thinking about the windows and doors that I can easily cut out. All of the other details, let's save for adding on top, and I'll explain that in just a moment. Now I'm trying to keep these windows kind of big, like they're about the size, I would say, of my thumbnail, maybe a little bit smaller, but you don't want them any smaller than that. It might be hard to cut into those details. I'm gonna cut out my shape. And I'm going to hang on to these because I can use these for adding more details in. And now I need to cut out these windows. So remember, our trick is we need to fold it. So I'm folding it in a place where I will be able to cut through half of the window. So I'm folding it right down the middle of these windows here as best as I can. And now I'm just going to go ahead, my scissor will be cutting through the fold, and I'm cutting right on that line I drew. And now I'll have to do that for the other row. So now I'm making sure all of my shapes are how I want them, and I'm gluing it onto my paper. What other details could I add to this? If this were my apartment building, and I want to show some more details, what else do you think I can add here? So I have my windows that are open, so I will show you a little sneak peek when we go to rub it with the crayon. The crayon will only pick up the areas that are raised. So I have all my little window cutouts, and that's what, when I go to rub my crayon, it's showing me all of the little places that I cut out. So now if I wanted to make this even more interesting, I can glue some areas on top, and it's going to make my paper a little bit more raised. I'm going to take some pieces of paper, and I might even go ahead and add in a brick texture by chopping up some of these pieces here and gluing it down like bricks right on top. So it's going to be a little bit hard to see with the black on black, but I'm taking these little teeny tiny strips and I'm just gluing them in certain areas to make it even more raised. Now another thing you could do is you could go ahead, you could add more detail to the door. One thing that I find is really helpful when working with buildings or any other drawing or collage that you want to add teeny tiny details is outlining things with paper. So adding another raised outline with paper. So that might mean cutting strips for yourself and outlining the important details, because watch the difference. So I just added a black frame around my window here. It's just like 4 little strips like that close by to my window to kind of emphasize it, to make it stand out a little bit more. Here's my first test print. This window is a little bit more emphasized now. It stands out more than the other windows where I don't have the frame around it. So if you want to make some areas come a little bit more forward, make them stand out a little bit more, outline them with your paper strips after you have your general building shape. And that might be helpful if you add a brick texture. It'll make it a little bit more interesting. So my trick is cut out the general shape of your house, all of the little shapes, and then go ahead, cut out your windows and doors. And then you can add in these paper strips to outline some areas and add in detail. Kind of like drawing, but you're going to be gluing it down.